The first shot cracked. Through the desert heat, before Rowan even reached the market gates, it echoed across the dunes like a warning. Bouncing off the wooden stalls and rusted iron cages, the Wild West had many cruel sounds: whips, drunken laughter, the rattle of chains. But this gunshot was different. It carried fear, desperation, a struggle already lost. Rowan's horse jerked beneath him, uneasy hooves shifting in the sand. He could feel the tension in the air, taste the dust settling on his tongue like ash. Something was wrong, worse than the usual ugliness that clung to places like this. He dismounted slowly, hand resting on the revolver at his hip, and pushed through the warped gate. Then he saw them. 5 Apache women, suspended from heavy wooden beams, bodies bruised, wrists bound above their heads. They hung, not as criminals, but as merchandised. 4 ruthless buyers who preferred their victims weak and silent. Their hair fell like dark curtains hiding their faces. But Rowan could sense the terror vibrating from them. See the trembling in their exhausted frames? And then on the shoulder of the youngest, he saw the mark. A sacred symbol inked in deep blue. The Thunderhawk. Rowan's heart slammed against his ribs. Memories he had long buried rose like ghosts' flashes of fire. A woman's scream, a promise made beside a dying warrior. A debt, a life he owed. A life he had run from. His jaw tightened. The world around him, the jeering traders. The smell of sweat and cruelty faded into a dull, distant hum. Interested in the lot, the slaver barked, stepping in front of Rowan. Cheap today. They won't last long. Rowan stared past him, eyes locked on the symbol, glowing faintly through the dust. "I'll take them," he said. The slaver blinked. "All 5? You're either a fool or a rich fool." Rowan didn't answer. He reached into his coat, pulled out a pouch heavy enough to silence every whisper in the market, and tossed it at the man's feet. Within minutes, the ropes were cut, and the women collapsed into Rowan's arms, barely conscious. He knelt beside them, supporting their weight, trying to meet their frightened eyes. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "I swear it." But even as the words left his mouth, Rowan felt the prickle of danger on the back of his neck, kind that meant someone was watching, following, or waiting. He hadn't just bought their freedom. He had reopened a war. The desert wind had begun to rise by the time Rowan guided the wagon away from the market, carrying the 5 women beneath a canvas cover. The sun dipped low, bleeding over the horizon like a wounded ember. And every mile placed more pressure on Rowan's thoughts. Saving them had been the easy part. Keeping them alive while half the territory now questioned his motives would be the true threat. As the wagon wheels groaned over dry earth, Rowan kept one hand on the reins and the other close to his rifle. He could feel eyes on him, even out here, where nothing should have been but sand and silence. The West had a way of whispering when danger was near. Tonight, it screamed quietly. A soft rustle came from behind him. One of the women pushed aside the canvas. Her movements slow, as though each breath cost her strength. She was tall, despite her weakened state, with sharp features and eyes that held suspicion forged in suffering. "You should not have interfered," she said, her voice hoarse yet commanding. "Men who buy lives only bring more death." Rowan kept his gaze forward. "I didn't buy your lives. I bought your chance to choose what comes next." She studied him for a long moment, as if deciding whether his words were another Western lie. "My name is Teanita," she said finally. "The others, they are frightened. They think you will trade us to another master." "If I wanted slaves," Rowan said quietly, "I would have left you where you hung." Teanita lowered her eyes, considering this, but her tension did not fade. Trust was a luxury beaten out of them long before Rowan arrived. After a moment, she spoke again. "The symbol you recognized, the Thunderhawk. You knew it." Rowan's fingers tightened around the reins. "Then, you knew one of us." "I knew someone who carried that mark with pride," Rowan replied, voice grim. "And I owed them more than a debt." Tyanita seemed to understand there was pain behind those words. But she didn't press. Instead, she shifted her gaze toward the horizon. "The men who captured us, they won't let us go. They hunt our children. They hunt us. And whoever stands with us will be hunted too. I figured as much." "You are only one man," she warned. Rowan allowed himself a thin, humorless smile. "Sometimes one man is enough to start a war." The wind picked up, scattering sand across the trail. And then far behind them a faint echo broke through the air. Hoofbeat. Slow at first, growing faster. Rowan didn't look back. He didn't need to. He already knew what was coming. The hoofbeats behind them multiplied, until the sound rolled across the desert like distant thunder. Rowan flicked the reins, urging the horses into a sharper trot. But he knew speed alone wouldn't save them. Whoever followed was skilled moving in formation, keeping perfect distance, waiting for the right moment to strike. This wasn't a drunken posse. This was a hunt. Under the canvas, the rescued women stirred, sensing danger. Tyanita pushed through again, gripping the wagon's frame for balance. "They are coming for us," she murmured, voice tight. "I recognize the rhythm of those riders. They belong to the man who took our children." Rowan didn't answer at first. He scanned the horizon, calculating terrain and timing. Open desert offered no cover, but a jagged ridge lay ahead, broken stone and narrow passes. It wasn't safety, but it was a chance. "We'll lose them in the canyons," Rowan said, steering the wagon toward the rising cliffs. Tyanita frowned. "You risk the women? The wagon will slow you." "I'm not leaving you," Rowan replied. "Not now. Not ever." She held his gaze for a breath, surprised by the certainty in his tone. But the moment broke as a rifle cracked behind them. A bullet struck the sand near the wheel, kicking up a spray of dust. The women gasped, huddling closer together. "Down!" Rowan barked. He snapped the reins, and the horses lunged forward. The wagon jolted violently, bouncing over stones, sending pain through Rowan's wounded ribs, the ones that never fully healed from the life he'd tried to forget. Another shot rang out, this one closer. The riders had closed half the distance. Tyanita crawled to the back of the wagon, peering out through the flapping canvas. 3 riders, no 4. They carry ropes and irons. "Bounty men," Rowan muttered. "Not the worst of them, but close enough." The canyon mouth opened ahead, a narrow slice of shadow between towering rock. Rowan pushed the horses harder. Just as they reached it, a final shot screamed past, grazing the wooden side. The impact startled the lead horse, but Rowan steadied it with a hard pull. They plunged into the canyon. The walls swallowed the noise, turning every hoofbeat into an echoing roar. The riders followed without hesitation. Rowan could hear them splitting into 2 groups, some on the ridge above, some tailing the wagon below. Trapped, but not beaten. Tyanita turned to Rowan, breath quick. "What now?" Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Now we make them regret following." He reached for his rifle. The canyon was about to become a battlefield. The canyon tightened around the wagon like the jaws of some ancient beast, its walls scraping the fading sunlight into thin, trembling lines. Rowan guided the horses deeper into the twisting passage, listening not only to the echo of their hooves, but to the pattern of the riders. Pursuit. The bounty men were spreading out, some above, some behind, trying to trap him the way wolves circle wounded prey. They thought he would crumble under pressure. They forgot he had lived most of his life inside it. A rock shattered overhead as a bullet struck the canyon wall. Pieces rained down, clattering across the wagon's roof. The rescued women flinched beneath the canvas, huddling closer together. Tyanita slid beside Rowan, jaw set, fear hidden behind a face carved by resolve. "You cannot outrun them," she said. "They know these passes. They've hunted here before." "And so have I," Rowan answered, pulling the rifle to his shoulder. He didn't aim at the riders behind them, those men expected to be shot at. Instead, Rowan fired upward at a thin, protruding ledge. The bullet cracked stone, already weakened by time. With a thunderous groan, a sheet of rock collapsed from the canyon wall, crashing down between the wagon and their pursuers. Dust erupted into the air, swallowing the path in a churning cloud. The riders reined back in shock, coughing, regrouping. It bought Rowan seconds, no more, but enough. Tyanita exhaled, impressed despite herself. "You fight like someone who has no wish to live." "No," Rowan said. "I fight like someone who finally found a reason to." Before Tyanita could answer, shouts echoed from above. 3 silhouettes appeared on the clifftop riders who had climbed the ridge to flank them. One raised a rifle, and Rowan reacted instantly. He jerked the reins, swinging the wagon toward an overhang just as the shot fired. The bullet ricocheted off stone, sending sparks spraying. Rowan cursed under his breath. The narrow trail ahead curved sharply, hugging the cliff. One misstep would send horse, wagon, and all 6 lives tumbling into the ravine below. "Hold on," Rowan warned, with every jolt of the wheels. Pain flared down his side, where old wounds still lingered. But he pushed through it, guiding the horses with steady hands. Another shot rang out from above, then another. The riders were adjusting, tracking movement, learning Rowan's rhythm. Soon they'd fire true. A soft voice came from behind him. "We can help." It was the youngest woman, the one with the thunderhawk still faintly visible. Beneath her torn clothing, her eyes were frightened yet fierce, as if carrying a memory too sacred to abandon. Rowan glanced back. "Can you shoot?" "No," she said. "But we can warn you. We hear their steps on the stone. We know how they move." Rowan nodded. "Good. Then listen." The canyon twisted again. The sound of pursuit swelled. The next decision would decide whether they lived long enough to see the sky. Beyond these walls, the canyon widened just enough for a sliver of pale sky to spill through, turning the dust into a shimmering haze. Rowan felt the shift. Immediately wider ground meant the riders would push harder. He braced himself as the wagon rattled over a jagged stretch of stone. Behind him, the women listened intently, pressing their palms to the canyon walls. Sensing vibrations Rowan couldn't detect, their whispered warnings came sharp and urgent. Above, to the right, the youngest said, "To riders. They're moving ahead of you." Rowan reacted, steering the horses toward the shadowed side of the canyon. A rifle fired from the ridge, but the bullet hit empty ground where the wagon had been a heartbeat earlier. The sound echoed like rolling thunder, bouncing between the walls. Another woman called out, 3 riders behind. "They follow the dust you leave." Rowan cursed under his breath. These were no amateurs. They were skilled, patient, paid well enough to chase a ghost through hell if asked. And Rowan knew exactly who hired men like this. The memory stung like an ember pressed to skin. He forced the thought aside. Focus, survive, get them safe. A fork appeared in the canyon ahead. Left path, narrow and twisting. Right path wide but exposed. Rowan didn't hesitate. Left, he shouted, pulling the reins so sharply the wagon skidded. The horses responded with a desperate leap. The wheels scraped along the stony edge, kicking loose gravel into the ravine below. Tyanita gripped the frame to steady herself. "That path shrinks to one horse's width," she warned. "If they follow, they will corner us." "They won't follow," Rowan said. "Not where we're going." The walls closed in until the canyon became more tunnel than trail. Rowan slowed the horses, guiding them through the passage. It was dark, cool, and suffocatingly narrow. The wagon barely fit between the stone. Every turn threatened to wedge the wheels. But then light appeared ahead. A hidden opening spilled into a basin of pale sand, surrounded by towering red rock. Rowan exhaled. He knew this place. A sanctuary carved by nature itself. Invisible unless one had stumbled upon it years ago, during a life running from sins he never confessed. The women stared in awe. "This place. It feels protected," one whispered. "It was once," Rowan said. Hoofbeats thundered behind them. The riders had found the trail. Rowan leaped from the wagon, rifle in hand, eyes narrowing as shadows appeared at the canyon mouth. He took his position between the women and danger. "Stay behind me," he said, because the hunt wasn't over. But here finally Rowan had the ground on his side. The first rider burst into the basin with a roar of hooves, kicking up spirals of dust as he charged. Straight toward Rowan. The man's face was masked with a bandana, eyes cold, rifle already raised. Rowan didn't wait. He fired once, striking the ground near the horse's legs, forcing the animal to rear and throwing the rider off balance. The man crashed hard into the sand, rolling with a grunt as his rifle skittered across the ground. Before Rowan could breathe, two more riders thundered out of the canyon mouth, fanning apart to flank him. Their precision told him exactly who trained them, men who once rode beside him, men he once trusted. That truth scraped raw against Rowan's nerves like rust on bone. Tyanita and the others crouched near the wagon, shielding the youngest woman with their bodies. She clutched her shawl tightly, whispering something Rowan couldn't hear, perhaps a prayer, perhaps the memory of one. The rider on Rowan's right fired first. Rowan dove behind a cluster of boulders as the bullet sparked against stone. Sand filled his mouth, his lungs, but his mind stayed clear. He peered over the rock, tracking their formation. They weren't killing blindly, they were pushing him into a corner, herding him the way they once herded fugitives across Rowan. Tyanita called, "Left." He swung around just in time to see the fourth rider emerge from behind a boulder, knife glinting in the fading light. The man lunged, and Rowan blocked the strike with his forearm, pain flaring as steel scraped skin. Rowan twisted, grabbed the rider's wrist, and slammed him into the rock face. The knife fell. Rowan didn't hesitate. He struck the man across the jaw, knocking him unconscious. Another bullet hissed past Rowan's ear. He ducked low, moving through the sand with calculated speed. The shooters were closing in, their rifles sinking in a rhythm meant to trap him. These weren't just bounty hunters, they were specialists. He recognized the signals, the way they tapped their saddles, the whistle cue they shared. Old tactics. Familiar tactics. The memories punched him harder than the fight. He had been one of them once. But the man he was then would have watched the Apache women die without blinking. The man he was now would die before letting that happen. Rowan rolled behind another rock as the riders split into two teams. One to draw his fire, one to circle the wagon. His blood ran cold. They weren't after him. They were after the women. Rowan rose from cover with a snarl, firing 2 warning shots that echoed across the basin. "Over here," he shouted, forcing their aim back toward him. The riders hesitated, confused by his recklessness. Tyanita stood then, tall and unbroken despite her wounds, calling out in her native tongue a cry that shook the basin like a spirit's command. The women joined her, their voices rising, creating a wall of sound that startled even the horses. The riders faltered, and Rowan charged. Rowan's boots dug into the sand as he sprinted toward the nearest rider, each step fueled by a mix of fury and purpose that burned hotter than the desert sun. The rider swung his rifle toward Rowan, but Rowan slammed into him before he could fire. Both men crashed to the ground, rolling across the basin in a violent tangle. Rowan ripped the weapon from the man's grip and tossed it aside, driving his fist into the rider's ribs until the man gasped and went still. But there was no time to breathe. Another rider circled the wagon, searching for an opening. The women had formed a defensive ring around the youngest, hands linked, backs straight, refusing to scatter. Their unity confused the rider. For a moment long enough for Rowan to seize his chance, he grabbed the fallen rider's pistol and fired. At the sand beside the horse's hooves, the animal shrieked, rearing violently, throwing the attacker sideways. The man hit the ground with a thud that echoed through the basin. The third rider, the most skilled of the pack, remained mounted. He kept his distance, studying Rowan with a predator's patience. His rifle rested across his saddle, steady, deliberate. When he spoke, his voice carried the cold familiarity of a past Rowan wished he had buried deeper. "You always were predictable," the rider said. "Still playing hero. Still protecting the wrong people." Rowan froze for half a heartbeat. He knew that voice. Cade Mercer. Once his comrade. Once his friend. Now a man whose loyalty had been sold to the highest bidder. "Cade," Rowan growled. "Didn't think you'd crawl this low?" Cade smirked beneath the brim of his hat. "Low? I'm getting paid more for these women than we ever made chasing outlaws." "Times change, Rowan. Men change." "Some don't," Rowan said. Cade raised his rifle. "Shame you're one of them." The shot cracked like lightning. Rowan dove behind a boulder, the bullet slicing a hot line across his sleeve. Cade fired again, forcing Rowan deeper into cover. Sand exploded around him with each precise shot. This was the man Rowan once trained. Beside the one who could shoot the wings off a crow mid-flight, Tyanita stepped forward, eyes blazing. She lifted a stone from the sand, gripping it tightly. "He wants us, not you." "That's exactly why he won't get you," Rowan said. Cade cocked his rifle for a final shot, but the canyon answered before he could fire. A distant rumble, soft at first, growing, shaking the ground. A sandstorm was forming beyond the cliffs, and it was headed straight for them. The sky dimmed as the sandstorm swelled across the horizon, turning the distant cliffs into shapeless ghosts. Rowan felt the temperature drop first, a sudden chill that rolled through the basin, like a warning whispered by the earth itself. The horses grew restless, stomping and snorting, their instincts recognizing the danger long before the humans did. Cade lowered his rifle, cursing under his breath as the wind picked up, pulling at his coat. "You chose a bad day to play savior, Rowan. Storm like that will bury you alive." Rowan emerged from behind the boulder, breathing hard but steady. "Then ride out," he said. "You still have time." Cade's eyes narrowed, studying him with a familiar mixture of irritation and reluctant respect. "You really think I walk away from this bounty? From them?" He gestured toward the women, his tone sharpening. "They're worth more than 10 outlaws. More than you ever were." A surge of wind swept the basin, lifting sheets of sand that lashed against exposed skin. The women shielded their faces, but Tayanita stood firm, staring at Cade with steady defiance. "Our children?" she said, her voice steady despite the storm. "Where are they?" Cade smirked. "Safe for now. My employers keep them alive because fear keeps you obedient. It's business, nothing more." Rowan stepped between them. "You're going to tell us where they are?" "I'll tell you nothing," Cade snapped. "But I'll gladly put you down." Another gust hit, harder this time, bending sparse shrubs nearly flat. The sandstorm's leading edge darkened the sky, rolling like a living wall. Rowan felt each grain sting against his cheek as he tightened his grip on his rifle. "Cade," Rowan said, shouting over the rising wind. "When that storm hits, we all lose. You won't see 10 feet ahead. You won't track us. And you definitely won't get paid." Cade spat into the sand. "I'll take my chances." Rowan raised his rifle not to fire, but to draw Cade's aim away from the women. The two men stood in a tense standoff. Their past stretched thin between them like a frayed rope ready to snap. The wind howled. The basin shook. The storm loomed closer. Tayanita stepped behind Rowan, laying a trembling hand on his arm. "If we stay, we die," she said. "If we flee, the storm covers our path." "She's right," Rowan muttered. "We use the storm." Cade barked a laugh. "Run into that. You'll be stripped to bone." "Better sand than your employers," Rowan said. And then before Cade could react, Rowan fired a single shot into the air. The horses panicked. Sand exploded upward, and Rowan yelled, "Go!" He vaulted onto the wagon as Tayanita and the women scrambled aboard. The horses lunged forward, pulling the wagon straight into the approaching storm, the world ahead vanishing into a swirling wall of red and gold. Behind them, Cade screamed Rowan's name, but his voice was swallowed by the desert. The storm swallowed them whole within seconds. The world dissolved into a raging blur of sand and wind, where sky and earth vanished into the same burning haze. The horses cried out in fear, their bodies pushing forward on pure instinct as Rowan fought the reins, trying to keep the wagon from overturning. Every breath scraped his throat like crushed glass. The air tasted of iron and dust. "Hold on," Rowan shouted, though his voice vanished into the roar. The women clung to the wooden frame of the wagon, their hair whipping like black banners. Tayanita shielded the youngest with her arms, whispering ancient words drowned by the storm, but steady and strong. Rowan saw her lips moving and felt a strange pull, like something older than the West itself had awakened. A sudden gust slammed into them, tipping the wagon sharply. Rowan dug his heels into the floorboards, forcing the reins left, then right. The horses staggered but managed to stay upright, their silhouettes flickering between streaks of swirling sand. Rowan's eyes burned, barely able to remain open, but he couldn't slow down. If they stopped, they'd be buried alive. A heavy crack sounded above them. One of the wagon's support beams, snapping under the storm's relentless force. The canvas roof tore open, sending strips of fabric flying into the gale. Sand poured through the gap, coating everything in a suffocating layer of red dust. "We can't make it," one of the women cried. "Yes, we can," Rowan yelled back. "Just a little further." But even he didn't know what further meant. Visibility was no more than an arm's length. The ground shifted under the horses' hooves, making each step a gamble between survival and collapse. Then through the chaos, the youngest woman, pressed her hand against the wagon floor. Her eyes widened. "There is stone beneath us," she said. "Smooth stone. A path." Rowan blinked through the storm. "What kind of path?" "A man-made one," she said, voice trembling. "Long, old." Hope sparked inside Rowan. "The old mining road," he muttered. "If we follow it east, it leads to shelter." Tayanita touched his shoulder. "You know this place. Enough to trust it," he answered. He guided the horses along the barely felt shift of terrain. Bit by bit, the ground flattened. The wind changed direction, funneling along the stone path instead of slamming them broadside. Rowan leaned into the reins, urging the horses onward with whatever strength he had left. Minutes or hours, he couldn't tell passed in the storm's choking embrace. Then a shape appeared through the haze. A dark outline, angled, solid. A structure carved into the cliffside, half ruin, half refuge. The mine outpost. Rowan breathed. "We're here." The wagon lurched toward the entrance, wheels grinding against the threshold. Rowan jumped down, nearly stumbling as he pulled the horses inside. Tayanita and the women followed, shielding their faces until the storm's fury softened behind stone walls. The outpost's stone corridors groaned softly as the storm raged outside, the sound echoing like distant cannon fire. Rowan paced the narrow room lit only by a single oil lamp, the flame trembling with every gust that seeped through cracked boards. The women rested along the walls, exhausted but alert, their eyes shifting to Rowan each time he passed. They sensed the truth he hadn't said aloud. Cade wasn't finished, and the storm wouldn't hide them for long. Tayanita approached quietly, her steps light despite her injuries. She studied Rowan's face, his clenched jaw, his restless hands, the weight he carried like a second shadow. "You are waiting for him," she said. Rowan didn't deny it. "He'll track us the moment the sand clears." Tayanita tilted her head. "You fear for us. I fear what he'll do to get to you," Rowan replied. "Cade doesn't fail missions. Not for money, not for pride, and certainly not for me." Lightning cracked outside, illuminating the room through a narrow window. In that flash, Tayanita saw something she hadn't before Gret. Carved deep into Rowan's expression, she stepped closer. "You knew him well." "He was like a brother," Rowan said, voice low. "We rode the borderlands together, survived ambushes, storms, outlaws. But somewhere along the way, he stopped caring who got hurt as long as he got paid." "And you?" she asked. Rowan looked at the women resting nearby, the youngest, leaning against her elder. "Sister?" Eyes closed, hands trembling even in sleep. "I tried not to care," he said. "But I failed at that long before today." A heavy silence settled until the youngest woman stirred. She rose slowly, still shaky from the storm, and approached Rowan with shy determination. She held out a small woven pendant, the Thunderhawk symbol, shaped from strands of horsehair and dyed thread. "My mother made this," she said, "for protection. You should have it." Rowan shook his head. "It belongs to you." She pressed it into his palm. "It belongs to the one who protects us." The weight of the small token struck him harder than any wound. He closed his fingers around it. "I'll keep you safe. All of you. I swear." Before anyone could speak again, a deep rumble echoed through the tunnel. A different sound from the storm, heavier, closer. Hoofbeat. Rowan stiffened. Tayanita's breath caught. The women silently rose to their feet, gripping one another's hands. The storm outside had begun to die, and Cade was already near. Rowan extinguished the lamp with a swift motion. Darkness wrapped around them like a cloak. "Stay behind the inner wall," he whispered. "Whatever happens, don't move until I call you." Tayanita touched his arm once more, a firm, grounding gesture. "You will not face him alone." Rowan gave a faint, grim smile. "I think that's exactly what he's counting on." Another set of hoofbeats. Then boots on stone. Cade had entered the outpost. The final reckoning had begun. The boots echoed sharply against the stone floor. Each step Cade took slicing through the darkness. Rowan held his breath, rifle in hand, every muscle coiled. The women stayed pressed against the wall, hearts pounding. The Thunderhawk pendant felt warm in Rowan's palm, a small talisman, yet heavier than any rifle, reminding him of the lives at stake. Tayanita whispered, "He knows where you are. He knows everything." Rowan tightened his grip. "Then we'll make sure he learns he cannot have them." Cade's silhouette appeared in the tunnel doorway, calm and predatory. "Rowan," he said, voice even, "you really think hiding can save them? You've always underestimated me." "And you've misjudged me," Rowan replied. "I'm not running anymore." The first shot cracked through the tunnel. Cade fired low. Rowan dove behind a support beam. Sand and grit exploded around him. He returned fire, precise, buying seconds for the women to reposition. Tayanita and the others whispered, passing small weapons. The youngest, dagger in hand, eyes sharp, watched silently. They were no longer just survivors, they were a unit, a family forged through fire. Cade lunged. Rowan met him, rifle butt striking the intruder. They tumbled, exchanging blows as old wounds screamed. Yet Rowan pressed on. A feint from Tayanita distracted Cade, just enough. Rowan drove him back, rifle leveled. "It ends now." Cade froze. Uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The youngest extended the Thunderhawk pendant. Rowan held it up, the symbol catching light. A calm settled over the room, as if the pendant bore witness. Cade dropped to his knees, defeated. "You leave," Rowan said. "Never return." Cade stepped back into the shadows, disappearing into the desert. Silence fell. The women exhaled, relief washing over them. Rowan leaned against the wall, exhaustion sinking into his bones. He looked at Tayanita and the youngest. "We made it." Dawn spilled over the desert, painting cliffs in gold and crimson. Rowan led the women into the courtyard, leaving marks in the sand, a new path, a new beginning. The desert remained harsh, but now it was full of possibility. Rowan held the Thunderhawk pendant tightly. "We start our home here," he said softly. "A family of our choosing." Tayanita smiled faintly. The youngest looked up at him, eyes shining. Together, they stepped into the rising sun, leaving behind horrors and embracing hope, survival, and unity. The desert was still wild, but for the first time, it felt like home.